over, or whatever you want to call it. Now this happens in the film insofar as you see the women on the expedition waking up after they've penetrated the shimmer with equipment, but they wake up and they don't remember going to sleep, they don't remember arriving, setting up camp, they just remember like walking towards the perimeter and then waking up, and they have no idea how much time has passed. But I think in the movie they look at their supplies, and I think they had been there for a day or two with no memory. So the mystery starts immediately, like you're just in it. Anywho, now I had highlighted I highlighted most of this book, that's how good it is, but I had highlighted a couple of things just in the first chapter that, because it is, both the film and the book are from the biologist Natalie Portman's characters in the film's point of view, and in the book they don't really go into names, and there's a reason for that, and we'll get into that as well. But when the biologist is describing, I mean, this is page 5, what Area X is like. Bear with me, sorry, technical difficulties. When she's describing what Area X is like, this is what she says, quote, "The beauty of it cannot be understood either, and when you see beauty in desolation, it changes something inside of you. Desolation tries to colonize you." Now, I don't know really what you people want from me, but if you ever had a reason to keep reading and that wasn't it, I don't know really what to say, or what can be said at this juncture. The beauty of it cannot be understood either, and when you see beauty in desolation, it changes something inside of you. Desolation tries to colonize you. Let's talk about this. First of all, beauty and desolation. She's a biologist. She's had experience in myriad different ecosystems and environments, and she often reminisces on her childhood, or just in her research and being out in these various ecosystems, and how there's, even in nature outside of Area X, there's a sense of, some things aren't quite as they seem. The way she talks about being in relationship to nature is really what makes her point of view really interesting in this experience, but also speaks to why her character chose and was so driven to volunteer for this particular expedition. The environment inside of Area X and inside of the Shimmer, which when you watch the movie, the environment, I really don't think the movie won any awards, even like technical awards, which really breaks my heart, because when you see the film, what they created in terms of set design and how they worked with a natural environment and this swamp and these beaches and these really beautiful lush areas, and how they like overlaid it with these otherworldly textures and things, it's just amazing. But everything inside of Area X is very clearly like different and alien, and we don't really know why, and we can't really put our finger on it. There's nothing that's just like, oh, that's like a frog with wings. Okay, it's not that type of situation. It's just like everything's a little bit off. The water doesn't move quite like it should. There's a whole situation happening, and throughout their arriving, and actually throughout the book, there's just kind of this low-toned moaning that happens from some sort of creature, which we'll get to. So it's just adding to this, ominous, foreboding moment that we're having in both the film and the book. Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure my camera is still with me. There we go. What else? What else did I want to talk about? Hang on, guys, bear with me. I have to turn my camera back on over here because it stopped recording. Okay, and we're back. So anywho, that circles back to the desolation theme. So when she's referencing desolation in that quote, she's referring to this kind of dead zone of Area X. Dead in the sense that all human life has been evacuated since whatever incident transpired to turn it into this otherworldly, preternatural, crazy place where weird shit happens. But I'm just curious if how that quote strikes you guys. Desolation tries to colonize you. Specifically, when you see beauty in desolation, it changes something inside of you. That moved me so profoundly. Anyways, again, we're just on page 5 right now, and I will cut to the chase shortly. There's just a couple more points I want to cover, but one of the biggest things that you're introduced to in the first chapter of the book is the tower. So when they go into this expedition, they go into it knowing that their mission is to, penetrate the perimeter, get in there, get to base camp, get their bearings, and then head to the coast where there's a lighthouse. The reason why they're heading to the lighthouse is all of the previous expeditions, members or participants, you get it, have all, in their journals, have all referenced a lighthouse in very specific detail and having great import on the goings on within Area X. So their goal is to get to the lighthouse and find out what the hell, is going on. So they get their bearings. We're talking about the book now. They're getting their bearings, and all of a sudden they happen across something on the ground. Now I'm going to describe it to you, or read it to you as it's just described. Now remember, they're trying to head to the coast towards a lighthouse. They know that the lighthouse is what they need to get to and figure out what's going on. So let me just make sure I start at the right place. Okay, so they're walking. Boom. So to the left of the trail that they're currently on, they see a circular block of some grayish stone seeming to mix cement and ground up seashells. It measured roughly 60 feet in diameter. It was a circular block and was raised from ground level by about 8 inches. Nothing was etched into it or written on its surface that could in any way reveal its purpose or the identity of its makers. Starting at due north, there was a rectangular opening set into the surface of the block, which revealed stairs spiraling down into darkness. The entrance itself was obscured by the webs of banana spiders and debris from storms, but a cool draft came from below. Now this is the biologist talking. At first, only I saw it as a tower. I don't know why the word tower came to me, given that it tunneled into the ground. So this is when I said the tower is not in the movie. The tower is not in the movie. And the tower in the book is essentially what you make of it. And we're going to, as they penetrate the tower, find out more about it. But anyways, they start to descend into this thing. She's crazy. She's thinking that she's crazy because she doesn't want to say out loud that it feels to her like a tower, even though it goes into the ground. She's like, well, why am I not thinking of this as a bunker or whatever? It's clearly something that goes into the ground, but it feels like it's a tower. She's thinking about the lighthouse, and then she's thinking about all of the people that reference the lighthouse in the previous expeditions, and she's wondering to herself, is this what they were actually referring to? And everyone was having some sort of mass hallucination. We don't know. But she does go on to say that too much shared information could skew our observations, which is, help me unpack that one. And she's having a conversation with the other people in the expedition, and they're trying to figure out what is going on. What is this thing? Why wasn't this on the map? Was it because they purposefully left it off the cartography, or was it not there before? We don't know. but they're trying to remain objective. And she goes on to say, nothing that lived and breathed was truly objective, even in a vacuum, even if all that possessed the brain was a self-immolating desire for the truth. I mean, if y'all want to know why I decided to get a master's in philosophy, that line might just sum it up. Even in a vacuum, even if all that your brain possessed was a self-immolating desire for the truth, you could not be objective. I mean, give me a break. Then she goes on to talk about how in her head, before crossing the border, now remember the border crossing, they're under hypnosis. She recalls having seen things like vast cities, peculiar animals, and once during a period of illness, an enormous monster that rose from the waves to bear down on their camp. The fact that she says during a period of illness, like, begs the question, like, how long did it take to penetrate the perimeter? How long were they under the power of suggestion? Originally, and this is what happens in chapter 1, is they kind of flash back to them being chosen and the process for them, volunteering and being chosen for the expedition, and how they're in like this white room and they're being questioned and examined and all the rest of it, and how there was originally supposed to be another person on the team, a linguist, but the psychologist came in and told her, being the biologist, like, she bowed out, she just decided this wasn't for her. And the biologist is thinking to herself, well, if anybody of us, would have been expendable, it's probably a linguist. Well, hold on to your thinks panties, ladies. She specialized as a biologist in studying transitional environments, meaning ecosystems that had transitioned from, let's say a desert to a wetland, or, something not as extreme, but you get the idea. And she's describing Area X as being like that on crack. Like, this is a transitional environment where you have like a forest and a wetland and sand and marshes and a beach. Like, there's just, everything is included in this one area. And she's talking about, in that moment where earlier she's like taking in like the beauty and the desolation and trying to like process everything that she's seeing as a scientist, but also, just as a person, and just trying to process what the hell is going on. She's basically coming to process like why no one lives there, like why they evacuated, obviously, because it's not inhabitable anymore. Like, there's goings on, we don't know what they are, shit ain't right. But this line also struck me. I understood why no one lived in Area X now, and that it was pristine and beautiful in its desolation, precisely for that reason. Because no one was there, there was no humans, or were no humans anymore. It was just growing, and you see this in the film. It's just like this overgrown, lush, beautiful, just environment that's like, even if it didn't have like this metaphysical science fiction like overlay to it, would just be so much to take in and of itself. Like, when you see those like History Channel or Discovery Channel documentaries about like what Earth would look like after humans were gone, and it's just like beautiful, or like I think of like I Am Legend in some cases. But anyways, just like taking that in and of itself would be like a whole situation. But then you have this whole like what the hell is happening. But she says, I understood why no one lived in Area X now, that it was pristine for that very reason, but I kept unremembering. Let's talk about unremembering. I highlighted that phrase when I first read the book. I re-highlighted it. I put it on my notes for talking points. Not misremembering, not forgetting, unremembering. I don't think prior to reading this book I had ever heard the term unremembering. I want to know like what that makes you feel like, because when I hear unremembering, I think of a conscious choice, right? Like, it's, you didn't forget, it wasn't an accident, it wasn't happenstance. Like, something you did something conscious to change, you know, to flip the script on what had happened. Anywho, it hardly mattered what lies I told myself, because my existence back in the world had become at least as empty as Area X. With nothing left to anchor me, I needed to be here. So you'll find out her reasons, both in the book and the film, for like why she's there. Spoiler alert, Oscar Isaac's character. Anyways, she goes on to say,